Well, hello, Sir Victor Rates, the one and the only Papa. Welcome to the Canton Parker podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm not too sure about the one and only, but I'm proud to be the Papa.
You, a lot of people don't know, but you are the grandfather of my wife, so I consider you my grandfather. And you have been an individual that at every family dinner, you're loaded with stories, you're loaded with wisdom, you're loaded with so much patience with all your kids and your grandkids and everyone in between that you just look at all of them. And I often at the table just kind of stare at you and you kind of just look at everybody and you have like this faint smile on your face and you can see there's so much contentment, so much fulfillment, so much peace at the fact that family is so tight-knit and weaved together. And that's not a small thing, because I know it's also been a hard thing over the years. And that's something that yourself and Gran have built very, very well.
Canton, both Sylvia and I, Sylvia being my wife, consider ourselves to be very, very blessed and lucky. All our kids, our grandkids, and we don't have in-laws, we have kids. You're not my great-grandson-in-law, you're my same as my son.
I'm your favorite eldest.
No, you're Granny's favorite.
I'm not your favorite. Shannon's your favorite.
Shannon's my favorite. And we're blessed. All our kids are still in this country, and that's another debate you can have. But we have family dinner once a month, and it's so nice when 14 people arrive at your place, and they all have different views, different vacations, and it causes for one hell of a conversation.
Yeah.
And it is fantastic. We love it. I can see when we don't have it that often, Sylvia gets withdrawal symptoms because she wants her family around her and she wants to make a fantastic meal, which she does, and we love it. It's to me, it's fun. It's a blessing. I'm blessed, truly blessed.
It's a beautiful thing to have so much. And you said four. I didn't even know it was 14 people.
Well, if you count them all, 14.
Wow. That's from Cass to you, which is great, actually.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And you've had quite the career over the years. You, I think, have been one of the key pioneers in a very well-known brand, in a very well-known company nationwide, even globally for that matter. And one of those companies is FNB, First National Bank. And it hasn't been without its headaches, but one thing that I know for sure, at least having conversation with you, but also seeing all the different frames and pictures and there's you and you were my age probably, and then you got your tie and Victor Rates and signature and all of that. And it's cool to see and even hear from my father-in-law, Jeff, but then even other family members, how headstrong you were, even hearing from you, but how it was hard work, but you loved what you do and you pioneered different innovation techniques to get FNB to where it was at the time, which has obviously been very foundational to where it is now. What was that like in the whole process of it? Because a lot of the people don't really realize the graft that goes into something like that.
Well, first of all, let me just tell you why or how I joined the bank. I had a very strict father, and we wrote our last exams, I think it was in the end of November, and he said to me one morning, "What are you going to be doing?" And I said, "I'm going to take a gap month," because I was going to
take like a gap year kind of thing.
I had to go to the army on the 5th of May the following year. That was 1969.
Wow.
So I said, I'm going to just take this gap time. I'm going to go to Durban and I'm going to bum around and that. And then I'm going to go to the army. When I come back from the army, I'll make a decision. And my dad just looked at me and he said, yes. The next morning, I woke up. Well, I was woken up by my dad and he said, get dressed, put your suit on. So I got dressed, I put my suit on and we walked down to the bank. I thought, this is it. My dad's going to sponsor this trip.
No.
And we walked into the branch, and he didn't have a banking account there. He knocked on the manager's door. We went inside, and he said to the manager, and his name was Arthur Jacob Eden. He said, this boy starts work here today.
Oh, wow.
And he walked out. And the manager said to me, what is going on? So I said, my dad wants me to work in the bank, and he wants me to start work today. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I told him, I want to go to Durban. I want to have a bit of a party. He said, and if you don't
I just want to have a jaw.
Yeah. He said, if you don't get the job, what's going to happen? I said, you really don't want to know.
Wow.
He said, okay, fine. Write a little essay, do a few adding and subtracting, And he gave me 2 coupons. Got on the bus and I went to head office with my little essay that I'd written. And I gave it to the personnel department. And they said, fine, you accepted. When do you want to start? I said, you guys are not listening to me. Today. And it was the 1st of December, 1968.
1968, wow.
And the beauty of it was, and it was unbeknown to me at the time, that the bank had a system whereby they paid you while you were in the army, but then you had to work a reciprocal amount of time to repay them.
Okay.
So I was called up for 9 months, so I had to give them 9 months back. But the first 5 months of my bank year counted towards that, and they paid me when I was in the army. And again, my dad being the person that he was, the day I left for the army, he said, why are you taking your checkbook? I said, well, I'm going to need money. He said, no, you don't. You're in the army. They give you a uniform, they give you clothes, they give you everything.
Yeah,
medical.
You're sorted.
You don't know anything. Give me your checkbook. So I thought, okay. I thought that was harsh. But at the end of the day, when I came out of the army, I was able to buy a motor car cash. And that started me on a no-debt drive. And that's how it was. And then going back, when I joined the bank on the 1st of December 1968, the bank in those days had not many products, but it was an apprenticeship. You started at the bottom. My first job was licking stamps to put on envelopes to post statements out.
Oh, really?
And I tell you, it was quite devastating because I thought, I'm going to join the bank, I'm going to be something.
Yeah, I'm going to make it. There we go.
Yeah,
Here's your check.
And if the stamps weren't square, you were in trouble.
Wow.
But then I did that, and I worked for the first 5 months, and I moved up a little bit, but I gained the confidence of the accountant at the time. And when I came out the army, I was immediately recognized. They said, right, you've done your army training, you've got 5 months experience in the bank, you owe the bank another 4.
It just feels like everyone just wanted your time.
They did, and I thought, and all I want to do is finish the 4 months.
Go to Durban and have a job. That's what you want.
And I buy a car now. So I thought, cut a long story short, every time I decided to leave and I put my notice in, they would tempt you with something. They would give you an increase, or they give you a grade, or
some form of like incentive.
It was, and it became, to a point, it became a game. Cut a long story short, I was fortunate enough to go through every department in the bank. Waste, ledgers, bills, foreign exchange, securities, telling, everything. And I loved it. But it was an apprenticeship because you moved from one level to another. And at the end of the day, I must say, the bankers that went through that system were competent and they knew what they were doing.
Wow.
And I was lucky. I went through fairly swiftly, but I never missed any steps. A lot of guys that had studied, got degrees, they missed a few steps and they went ahead of us. But I went through all those steps, and then I was given my first assistant accountant's post in 1974.
I love how you know it to the T.
Well, you thrive for those things.
Yeah.
And then I was an assistant accountant for about 5 years at the same branch, and again I did all the assistant accountant's posts, which is bills, ledgers, foreign exchange.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Was this like a very manual process?
Totally.
Like not pencil because it can erase because it's the bank. You kind of don't want that. But like pen, paper, filing, like stacks of cabinets.
I'll tell you how anti the bank was towards technology at that point in time. I was on the counter, I was a teller, and calculators just came out.
Oh, wow.
And they were Casio calculators. And they cost about 12, 15 rand, which was expensive, but it was just a calculator. It was nothing more than that. And in the afternoons when you balance up, the accountant used to come around and say, do you need any help? And I was adding this up with a calculator. And my accountant walked up to me and said, what is that?
Oh, no.
I said, it's a calculator. He said, what do you do with it? He knew what it was. He said, what do you do with it? I
said, you feel like he was trying to corner you, like, what are you doing with it?
And it wasn't matter what do you do with it.
Yeah.
So I said to him, no, I'm adding up my books. He said, are you telling me that you cannot add up, because everything was in tens, you had 10 entries on a page. He said, you cannot add up 10 numbers mentally.
Oh, wow.
I said, I can. He said, well, give me the calculator, because you don't need it. But if you need the calculator, I don't need you.
Oh.
I was devastated. I thought I was such a hotshot with just a calculator.
Look at me, I'm going to be efficient.
And that was it. He took the calculator. Wow. About 3 months later, he gave it back to me. In those days,
because he bought his own calculator.
I think he used mine. In those days, we had, I think it was called an abacus. and you punched in figures and you turned it 3 times this way and 2 times back and to multiply. It was like manual labor.
Yeah, rather just counts in your head.
And you ended up getting the end result. But that was when we joined. Everything was manual. Everything was double-checked, the whole system. If I raised an entry, I'd give it to a check clerk. The check clerk would check it, an initial, and then the assistant accountant would check it. And so by the time the entry had been done, it was full of initials, and everybody had checked it. So you couldn't make a mistake.
Because it had to go through so many checks, so many eyes for that accountability.
All the time.
Wow.
And they used to check it because everything was debited or credited to an account number. Now, you can make a mistake with the account number because they're fairly close. Everything was checked. So at the end of the day, at 4:30, when you went home, that branch balanced. The next day when you went in, it was a fresh day. It was a brilliant system. It was a great apprenticeship. We had quite a few tough accountants that really and truly put pressure on us to do things properly. And it was a fantastic experience. And I just want to digress a little bit. In those days, you had to wear white shirts and dark suits.
Oh, really? Was it just like the staple of presentation?
You were a banker.
Yeah.
So
it was technically like the uniform.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the girls did wear uniforms in those days. At any rate, I wasn't a rebel, but I was a little bit different.
You weren't a rebel? Yeah, I've heard stories.
We had an outfitter just down the road from us, and most of the guys used to buy their clothes from him. And I went down there and I bought 1 or 2 paisley shirts with zany ties because it was the early 70s and everybody's wearing bell-bottoms and aubergine suits and that. So I went and bought this lovely paisley pattern shirt and I put a tie on and I walked into the branch and I remember I was on the counter at the time and the manager walked past me and he looked at me and he went and sat down and about 2 minutes later the accountant knocked on the back door and he said, "The boss man wants to see you." Again, Mr. Arthur Jacob Eden. So I went in.
Arthur Jacob Eden. I love his first, second, and last name.
I knew him. We had a few discussions.
A few.
And he said to me, I walked in and you had to wait to be seated. If he said sit down, you could sit. If he didn't, then you just stood. Then
was it just that like level of authority that carried?
And he was an elderly man. He was close to 60 in those days.
Wow.
And we were like 19, 20, full of it.
Oh, so like you literally have fresh out the womb to a man who's got a lot of years under his belt. Yeah.
Been around the block. And most of those managers had managed in different countries of the world.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't just South African ethic, it was a world ethic. When I joined, it was Barclays. So we were a part of Barclays DCO, and that's not debits, credits, and overdrafts. That's district, colonial, and overseas. Any rate, going back to it, I had this paisley pattern shirt on. And all he said to me is, "Why are you wearing a clown's outfit?"
Wow.
Now, I thought I was... So
first the calculator, now the suit.
Just the way he said it. "Why are you wearing the clown's outfit?" He said, they knew I stayed close to the branch. He said, "You got a half an hour at lunch to go home and put on a proper shirt or don't come back."
Wow.
So I was absolutely devastated. So I went, changed, put on a normal white starched up shirt, and I got back to the branch. The next staff meeting, the manager turned around and said, "There's a dress code in this branch. There's a dress code in this bank. And we don't wear clowns' outfits."
Wow.
And that was the end of it. We all went back to white long sleeve shirts.
Yeah.
And when you're on the counter and you're dealing, in those days the money was copper and silver, you get filthy dirty. We used to have black plastic sleeves.
Oh, wow. So that it didn't get on the hem.
Onto your cuffs.
Wow.
To keep them clean. Again, that was the ethic, the tradition. What was great about it is when you stepped out of line, you knew it.
Wow.
Because you were told in no uncertain terms. Politely.
Yeah.
But you knew.
But you knew.
When a guy tells you you've just spent, like those days, or say $2.50 on a shirt that you were so zany in, and he said, "What's with the clown outfit?" You really and truly, it brings you down to earth with a bit of a bang.
To be told, go home and take off the clown outfit. That's that.
Exactly.
Like, ouch. Do you feel like it was at the time at the bank, like it was like a lot of hard work?
It was hard work. But then when you think about it afterwards, he knew that I stayed close by.
Wow.
Other guys were catching trains from Krugersdorp and all over, so they couldn't go home. So I thought about it afterwards. he knew more about me than I thought he knew about me. And that made me feel good, in spite of the fact that I was totally embarrassed in the meeting. Totally embarrassed.
Almost to the degree where he kind of had a glimpse and an angle to who you were going to become, but also at the same time to who you currently were. And he was able to read that and go, right, maybe the methodology was a little bit uncanny and like, oh, okay, that hurt a little bit, but it still shaped and molded you
Absolutely.
to where it ultimately kickstarted success.
And yes, it did. And you know, the situation with my dad when he took my checkbook away before I went to the army, and the bank's salary system and how you manage money, it's like burnt into my mind.
Wow.
And I'm proud to say this. I've had very little debt in my life. As a matter of fact, the only debts that we really and truly have, and my wife has got the exact same philosophy, is our bond. Sure. We used to save up. If we wanted a new car, we would save. If we wanted to get new furniture, we would save. We never got these massive accounts and got out of control. And it was nice. I loved the bank. I had a great time in the bank.
It reminds me of a quote that I heard a few years ago. If you can't afford it, you can't have it.
Correct.
And the fact that, you and Grant sat down and were like, right, how much does it cost? Okay, cool. How much can we put away? Okay, let's save. And then when you get it, you'd probably account to this, but it's so rewarding.
It is. And again, a little anecdote. When the little plastic money bags came out with a Ziploc on the top.
Oh, yeah.
Sylvia and I, we had just been married. We had just got married. And obviously we had two different incomes, and we got a whole lot of these bags. Not a whole lot, we got a dozen of them. And we put on there rent, light and water, insurance.
Like cash in these money bags.
Put into the money bags.
Wow.
Okay, and that went into her wardrobe. Just because that's how it is. It went into her wardrobe. And I was playing football, and we had a lovely social circle of friends, and there were many a time when they'd say, oh, we're going to this restaurant, we're going to that restaurant, and we might have had 20, 25 pound at home in allocated envelopes. My wife would say, we're not going. We're going home.
Talk about discipline.
Our entertainment budget is done. Most of that went on my beers, by the way. And that's how it is. And I was fortunate in having somebody that supported me so well.
Wow.
At 24, I bought my own house. I bought my first house.
And that's unheard of.
It was.
Probably then and still now.
The bank had a subsidy system going, but it was linked to your salary income, so it wasn't a big amount. But I was able to buy my own house, and our dream, my wife and I's dream, was that our children would be born in our own home.
Wow.
And in 1975, my son was born in my own home. And that's pride. And again, I'd love to take the accolades for it. My wife, the stalwart behind everything, she drove it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and that's not a small thing either.
It's not, no.
Which is incredible. And, it's not that it's kind of on topic, off topic, but a lot of what you're saying, I can resonate a lot with, because I grew up with a father that wasn't harsh, but was hard. And not hard unjustifiably. He was hard in the context where, hey, be driven. Hey, think like this, look like this, treat money like this. Don't be an idiot to society, but also to yourself. And kind of think past your nose kind of thing. And for me, I always grew up kind of going, no, I don't want to do that. But now I look back and I go, I'm so grateful that I had that. And I had a father that in the moment, to me, selfishly, I would have said was hard. Where really, he was just showing me life is hard. And if you're willing to just open your eyes and open your ears, and more than anything, open your heart, you'll be able to experience certain things along the way that is going to far, far, far supersede and serve you so much better in the future. And listening to what you were saying with your dad, but then also your managers in the bank, it's like, so maybe there is a trick to having a bit of a headstrong, hard, quote unquote, hard experience that ultimately is not about you, but it's for you.
Canton, two things. First, my dad was never a forward thinker. My dad was very much not a negative person, but he would say, don't do this. Don't do that. Don't mess around. He never once said, you must do this, you must that. I never had that. I had the negative of don't do these things. And I used to say to him, why? And he used to say, just respect your family. Just have respect for your family, enough self-respect. And don't do these things that destroy respect. And at the end of the day, it was a bit of a strange lesson when it was happening, but afterwards I appreciated it.
Yeah.
I grew up with more don'ts than motivational do's. But you talk about strong managers. I was blessed. I worked with some of the toughest managers and accountants in the business. And it done me the world of good. In those days, banking was very stoic. Everything was on place. There was no messing around. And you started at 8:30, you finished at 4:30. You had an hour lunch, 1 to 2. You got back at 2:10.
It's like very clock time.
That's the system. But you have to remember, guys were dealing with money. They're taking in deposits and that sort of thing. And they were 20 years old. So you needed those strong systems. And the strong systems and the bank systems and South Africa's banking systems are some of the best in the world.
Oh, wow.
They were great. The South African banking system and the Reserve Bank system is of the best in the world today, still today. And having strong accountants, you develop that and you sort of mold yourself on what you think you should be doing. And then I was very fortunate. At a fairly young age, they put me onto a program and they had what they call the Thomas...
The tank.
No, it was Thomas something profile analysis.
Okay.
I'll think of the name. But they analyze you. You go on this course for a week and they come back and say you're a quiet introvert.
Oh, is it almost like an aptitude test where it's like they kind of figure out your personality?
And they say, and this is how you operate under pressure.
Got you.
And this is how you operate. And, oh man, I just wish I could remember. Then I went on this and I came out as a quiet extrovert.
Ah.
And I thought, no, that's not me. I'm actually a quiet introvert. And they said, no, you're a loud introvert. And then you started reading into it. And as you get older and as you moved up in the banking career, you could see where it was actually so true. And going back to the managers that I had, they'd read this and they say, right, we know where to put this guy. We know how to develop his career in this way. And honestly, it was fantastic. I loved the bank. I had a great time in the bank. I had tough times in the bank, but I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. And I got a good grounding. And once you've been in the bank 20 to 30 years, you know quite a lot about business, about estates, banking accounts, you learn all these little things.
Yeah.
And if you put it all together, you become quite well-rounded. And that's what made it so good for me. But unconsciously, I become aware of it. It was lekker.
And what's nice is that it also positions you to become such a irreplaceable asset.
I wouldn't say irreplaceable because it was there
was someone with a bigger calculator.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You finish matric in the beginning of the year, there were 9 matriculants. Now, the bank knew they were going to shed 3 or 4.
Wow.
So they knew 5 would stay and 3 oaks would go on pension. So the actual numbers stayed the same. So you had competition as a young person. But if you just followed the route that they'd plotted out for you, things were fine.
So your time at the bank was memorable. It was incredible, but it also came with a lot of, I don't want to say hardship in the sense that it was hard, but it was hard in the sense where it was still graft. But now, I guess a conversation that we've often had together at like family dinners and stuff is the change in work culture and work, I don't want to say ethics, but I'm going to use the terminology anyway. But do you feel like work culture and work ethics today has become a bit weak? But also, it's also become a bit more flexible to allow the individual to flourish.
Absolutely.
And maybe it's actually a bit of the same thing.
It is. It's the exact same thing, but different, if that makes any sense to you. The bank is routine-driven. There's a process for everything. There's no transaction that you're going to do today that hasn't been done 1,000 times before. There's a routine, and it had manuals and all sorts of things like that. And because the bank was successful for such a long time with those rules and regulations, why change it? And then all of a sudden, we got into different things. Computers came in. Then new products came out. Credit cards. I mean,
Oh, really?
When we first joined, we had
So were you there from the first
Yes,
credit card?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then they said, this is a credit card, this is how it works. The first thing that we thought is, how's he going to pay that back?
Oh, wow. Because at the end of the day, you still need to run the numbers.
Absolutely. And in the past, if you wanted an overdraft, you went to the manager, hand and knee and cap in hand, and you begged for an overdraft, and he would give it to you. And I tell you something, you would know if you were at 1 cent. Well, 1 cent over, you would know about it. Now all of a sudden, you've got a credit card with a mechanistic limit to it.
Oh, wow.
So you can go and draw 200-300 rand, and you'd get an account at the end of the month, and you'd have 30 days to pay it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a diversion of banking.
Really?
And being routine orientated and admin orientated, I battled with that a little bit. But that was just one of the many battles that I had. And as you get higher into the bank, you realize I was fortunate. I stayed in a suburb close to my branch, so I could walk to work. I was very big into motorbikes. I used to go down on my bike. I was then transferred to Canton, and it was a hell of a distance. Oh, no, sorry, I beg your pardon. I was transferred to Milner Park, which is a long way off. There was no parking. You had to put money in a meter if you wanted to go by car.
Oh, really?
So you had to start using the bus. And then all of a sudden, you realize, hang on, this car's late, but it could be the train. Or it could be a bus, or it could be because of the rain. Whereas where I was in the past, I just used to walk to work. It took me 10 minutes. So it opens up another view, and that was a good thing for me. And this is where the bank was so holistic. You go and work in another environment. You work with different people, and you get to understand their issues and situations. And the last big shock that came to me, and this was late in my career, I was in the ATM network, and we had a lot of encryptors and IT guys and technical guys, and all they wanted to do was work from home.
Wow. And this was even then?
I'm talking 15 years ago, 16 years ago. And I said, no, I want to see you. I want to know what you're doing. And the one guy said to me, I'm an encryptor. Do you know what I'm doing? I said, no.
You're like, I don't even know what encrypting is.
So why do you want me here?
I've got a calculator.
And this is where, and you sit down and think, and the one chap, he was a massive guy, he must have weighed about 300 pounds. He said, Vic, I get up in the morning, sometimes I wake up at 4 o'clock and I have a moment and I'll jot it down and I'll go and do something. And I'll get back into bed at 9 o'clock and I'll sleep until 11. Then I'll get up and I'll go to gym. And I'll come to work at 2 o'clock. But I've done a day's work already. And I battled with it. I really and truly, it was difficult for me. And because I was routine orientated, admin orientated.
Also, I think because of your dad starting at the bank early, but then also the army.
Very much so. Cut a long story short, eventually the clever people won. The admin people lost. And we said to the encryptors and all of the smart people, okay, we put a system into place where you can work so many hours at home and get to work whatever time you like, and as long as you deliver. And that's all they said. Judge us on our productivity. Judge us on what we give you.
The good old-fashioned, get shit done.
Yeah. Now, I wasn't getting shit done. I was counting heads all the time. Everybody was there.
You were making sure everyone else was getting shit done.
And the salaries were correct because you were there, you get paid. Which was, it was archaic. It was totally wrong. And once I come to grips with that, I went through a stage where I could relax.
You feel like it was kind of like pressure
off, and you got to trust people. I had the ultimate trust in some of my guys, because they would say, we're going to put this system into place. And I was like, oh man, if you could get that into place, that's fantastic, but it's impossible. They used to say, no, it's not. And they used to come and deliver it. And it was a wonderful, to me, it was a wonderful change, going from this admin-driven, almost Hitler-type person.
Like very regime.
Very much so.
Yeah.
To laissez-faire, let's just let it happen. And the guys delivered. And it was fantastic. And that is the benefit of the bank. This is what I enjoyed about the bank. I started off as a stamp licker, and I ended up running the FNB ATM network. And we were one of the most successful divisions in the bank. And we're the smallest amount of numbers. But we had clever guys that worked from home.
Do you feel like it was that change in mindset and that change in understanding everyone is different, but also at the same time be different, but there still needs to be consistency and to some degree uniformity, because at the end of the day, we need to get shit done. So as much as you want to work from home, because it doesn't work for everyone, unfortunately.
No.
I would love everyone to just kind of dot their I's, cross their T's, get what needs to get done, whether you're at an office or at home. But please, oh please, if you are at home, please don't treat it like an extended holiday.
You see, that's where discipline comes in on the part of the person working from home. Now, I don't have that discipline. My discipline is I will get to work at 8 o'clock. I'll bust my gut until 5:30.
And then leave me alone.
And then leave me alone.
Yeah.
And that's an old-fashioned attitude. That change came at virtually the same time as I realized that I had 3 kids with 3 different personalities.
Oh, yeah.
And it was 3 different management styles.
Oh, wow. So the bank was one job, and parenthood was another job.
And it was, again, because of the banking experience, I could accept things. You know, I said to my son, what university are you going to go to? And he said, I don't want to go to varsity. I'm going to waste your money. I want to go and work. And he was 17. That's the most honest statement I've ever had out of a person, because all the kids were going to university or taking a gap year.
It was like the thing to do.
He just said, no, I want to go and work. And I put one clause on it, one rider. I said, okay, well, you find a job. And he joined the bank, unbeknown to me.
Oh, wow.
But a lot of the bank guys knew him from playing golf and this thing. So he got a passage into the bank on his own without me knowing about it. And he's in the bank today, still very successful.
Yeah, does very well.
And just the management style is different. You know, my dad would have said to me, you will go to university, you know.
Where here was like, do you want to go to?
Well, I gave him the choice. Which university do you want to go to? And his honesty, it was just such a great feeling for a young guy to be so brutally honest. And he was clever. I mean, he got a university entrance matric. He could have gone to any university in those days. So, yeah, and then I had 2 daughters that were the same but different. If you look at them, you won't say they're sisters.
They're probably watching this podcast and listening and going, he's talking about us.
Yeah.
And you're just like, look at my calculator. That's going to be like the premise of it. But like a lot of what you've been saying, do you feel now in all your years of experience and looking at how things have changed from, you know, pen and paper, then a calculator, then computers, and you're like, whoa, credit card statement. It's no longer, you know, yes sir, no sir, please can I have a bigger overdraft. Like, so much has changed and evolved, and some, for the most part, for the better, and some, I can only imagine, you know, yourself and Grant kind of look back and go, it was so much simpler then. And you look at it now and you're like, what on earth is going on?
You can only, I can only say that for subjects that I now understand.
Wow.
I understand exactly how smart an ATM is. I understand how smart an iPhone is. Not that I can use one.
Now you know how smart
I can still use a calculator. And when I look at my grandkids and my kids, and they sit and have a conversation with you with a cell phone under the table doing messages, I mean, that's more than multitasking. And you sit down and think, the coordination of being able to do that and the ability to have a conversation and still send a message and do all these sort of things, it's a different level of intelligence.
Do you feel like it's evolving too quickly?
Sometimes, but then other times I think, no, that's right. That pace is correct.
Because society and civilization is the leaps that we have made. Elon Musk, which I'm sure you've heard of who he is, and like what they're doing, even different countries in the world. I mean, the things that we can do now, the things that we are testing the waters of doing, even to the degree where this time next year we're going to look back and be like, okay, what's happening here, guys? Like, this is hectic. Well, but it's exciting, but scary.
Very scary. I'll give you a classic. I'm a petrol head. I love motor cars.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Then all of a sudden they brought out electric cars.
Oh, yeah.
Now that to me was such a big step forward. But some of the first cars in 1913 were electric.
Oh, wow.
If you go back and read the history of electric cars, I think Buick had an electric car in 1913. So it's not new.
It's just evolved.
It's just evolved and repackaged. So now I've come to grips with an electric motor car. I will one day have to own one. Not that I'm keen, I will one day have to own one. Now with AI, you might not even have to drive it.
True.
And everybody...
You can finally have your naps in your car on your way to go buy a new calculator.
Absolutely. The thing is, you were in control of the car and you thought, again, being an admin manager, control. I'm in the car, I'm driving it, control. Now it's changing the gears. The electric motor car's got no gears. Just put your foot in the accelerator. AI, the car parks for you.
And still says thank you, goodbye.
Yeah, thank you and goodbye. The door's not locked. Yeah. So progress is fantastic, but it has gone, to my mind, it's gone a bit quickly. And you notice it, like now, as a retired person, I've got time to look at these things.
And kind of absorb it at your own pace.
And you talk about Elon Musk. You see, the cars that he's got, taxi-driven taxis that aren't manned.
Yeah.
And I think, would you get into one of those?
Sure.
You see 10 other people that get in every single day. So it has gone fast, but personally, I think they should just slow down a little bit.
Can you guys bump the brakes just a little bit?
Yeah.
But now you mentioned the word, things have progressed. Now at your age, looking back at everything from, when you were a latte and, you joined the army and you went to the bank and all of that, when you kind of look at someone like Cass and you see the future of when I say see the future, you kind of, I don't want to say predict, but you kind of get a little bit of a foresight on what could come based on the reference of what has been. And you kind of look at it. What are you feeling about the next year, 5 years, 10 years?
To do that, I've got to do a bit of a comparison. We stayed in the same place mentally, and all this technology went ahead, and we had to absorb it. I was in the bank and they brought in computers. It was a big step for me. The kids of today do computer sciences in grade 5. So
sometimes even younger.
It's not new to them. So for them, it's not. I wouldn't say it's not a challenge. It's nothing new, and that is where innovation and particularly new innovations are. You either get on board or you're with it or you're anti it. The kids of today, it's natural to them. I mean, Cassidy sorts my phone out for me.
Quick.
Yeah. And she laughs because I can't do it. But I can use a calculator.
You can use a calculator.
And that's why I say technology going forward, it just needs to slow down a bit. But the kids of today are a lot brighter than what we were. They might not be street smart. They might not have certain of our ethics, but they are bright. I look at Cassidy and I look at the homework that she does and she gets. I listen to her talk. I listen to Shani and Amber. Their whole maturity level is just something else. Now, we were never that matured out at a similar age. And is it a good thing? Yes, it is. How do you keep up to date? People like me battle.
Sure.
I battle. And this is why you mentioned earlier on, I just sit and watch the family at the family dinner. I marvel at their intelligence. I marvel at the way the banter takes place at a slightly higher level.
And here's me just drinking a beer, cracking jokes.
Yeah, but you see again, the jokes that you crack are they're relevant.
But I see what you're saying. It's must be such a beautiful experience to just pause and look, and like you're listening to Cass and Amber and Lagan and then myself, and you're just like, wow, look how time has both flown, but look how time has just progressed and how it's changed. Some for the bad, but mostly for the good.
Yeah, and the cherry on top of all of that, they're my grandkids and my kids.
Yeah,
and it makes you feel so proud when you see them successful and you see them talking about things that you never thought they'd ever talk about. They're just at a different level, and it makes you proud to know that your kids are on the mainstream and they're going in the right direction. And we've been blessed.
And as a petrol head, it's such a, and I'm just using it as an analogy, petrol head, but it gives you so much fuel in the tank.
Oh, man.
To just look at the kids and the grandkids and just, you mentioned it now, but just to be wrapped in so much immense love and joy and pride, looking at what has just organically unfolded to the origin story of a kid who joined the army, who just wrote down on a piece of paper and just went, right, one foot in front of the other will eventually get me to the destination.
And I'd like to add on to that. At no point in time did I even dream of technology being where it is, of my family being where it is, and of me getting to 73 and being a pensioner. It was never spoken about, it was never a dream, it was never an aim. My goals and my aims in life were just to make sure that my kids were successful and they had the things that they needed, the tools that they needed to be successful. They've taken the baton and they've run. I mean, I'm blessed in that sense. But I'd love to be able to say to you, Canton, I planned all of this. I did. I did not.
I took my calculator and I punched the numbers and...
No, it didn't happen. It was just... Because of the environment, because of our ethic, our family ethic, they've just gone through and developed. And my pride is that I planted the seed and it's grown into one hell of a big tree.
I think it's a beautiful story in and of itself. You being an individual who thrives so much on control. I want to know, I want to do, and therefore I will get the result in which that I had planned and reverse engineered. However, you just went through the motions, through the happy, the sad, the good, the bad, the ugly, the whatever, and you just said, let us just keep moving and now look at what's unfolded.
And you know the secret to that? Nothing breeds success like success. And my kids were successful. As much as I never pushed them, I never sat down with my kids and said, this is not a good report, this is not a bad report. I just said, what are you going to be doing? How are you going to fix it? And
have a plan.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, their success, that has been my success. Without me being involved, it's a bit of a conundrum. And all my kids are ultra successful.
Sure.
I mean, you look at Shani. I mean, how do you get a better granddaughter than that? Where do you get a better granddaughter than that? You can't even order it through online. You just get it. Then you take her sister Amber. Totally different, but the exact same. And that sounds weird, but that's just how they are. You take Cassidy. Totally different, but the exact same. They have their little different traits and tweaks. And fortunately, being on pensions and that, we can sit down and
kind of absorb
and be patient.
We're
not the parents, but you just sit back and it's fantastic.
That's incredible.
And life is, I'm blessed. There's just no two ways about it.
I love that.
I'm blessed. Really,
well, on that note, a man that is filled with experience and wisdom and blessings on blessings, looking at how your family has not only grown up, but is growing up, and looking at how everything is unfolding right before your eyes. Both you and Gran, I think, can hit your heads down on a pillow at night and kind of go, that's us, which is, again, it's not a small thing. And I think it's one thing thinking it, wanting it, planning for it, but it's another thing just putting your head down, putting one foot in front of the other, and just saying we're going to do what we need to do through the hard work, through the hardships, through the heartache, and just making it happen. And so on all of that...
Before you end...
are we closing? Do it.
No, I thought you were.
No, let me grab my calculator quick. We should go get matching calculator tattoos. Why not?
No, I'm scared.
You don't have space. Yeah, me too.
I talk about the success of my children. My daughter Lauren, she wanted to go to varsity, and her matric results were good enough for her to get a bursary at UJ for the first year, which is quite an achievement. And her being a true right, she worked a little bit and partied. And she came to me in the middle of the year and said, Dad, this is what the situation is. I said to her, Lauren, you can do it. You know you can do it. You want to do it. You put a plan together and get it sorted out. And she did. And she flew through things. But I think she's the only one that had a gap year, but she was at varsity. Today, she's a highly qualified accountant. She's got all the the technical now, the text, all this sort of stuff. She knows everything about it. But if you see Lauren's Lauren, eh? You think does Lauren look like an accountant to you?
She just wants more pop funkers.
That's all. and things like that. And those are the successes. Her success is my success. Not that I was involved in it. I was never motivational in any. Well, I never went to varsity, so I couldn't give her advice. I couldn't say, you got to do this or you got to do. She just knuckled down and did it. And that makes, as I say, her success and Jeff's success and Nicole's success, I share that.
Sow good seeds and you'll eat good fruit.
Very lucky. And then the boss of the bosses, capo to capo, Sylvia, in the background.
We just need Cremora tarts. That's all we need.
Yeah.
Well, Victor Rates, Papa, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for your words and your time and your love and your willingness to just come and share some stories.
Pleasure. I love it. I love talking about my family.
We just need more calculators now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But we need the bigger one, not the little cash.
No, there's a calculator on your phone. But
well, there you go.
Podcast for another time. But thank you so much. Love you and excited for the next one.
Thank you very much.